Tag TV brings you daily news bulletin from India. Breaking news and views from India.
You're watching South Asia Newsline, and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Friday, the 1st of August. Trump slaps tariffs across South Asia. India gets 25%, Myanmar hit hardest. Pakistan jails more than 100 members of ex-PM Imran Khans party for 2023 riots. And Bangladesh may slide back to confrontational politics, analysts fears. And now for all the details. From Kabul to Colombo, South Asian nations are in crosshairs, feeling the tremors of a fresh tariff blitz from the United States. President Trump's latest executive action imposes what he calls reciprocal tariffs on over a dozen nations, many of them in South Asia. We have a report.
As the self-imposed deadline of US President Donald Trump for trade deals ended on Friday, the president signed a new executive order slapping tariffs on dozens of trading partners, including India, Pakistan, and other South Asian nations. In the executive order signed on Thursday evening local time, Trump said some trading partners, despite having engaged in negotiations, have offered terms that, in my judgment, do not sufficiently address imbalances in our trading relationship or have failed to align sufficiently with the United States on economic and national security matters, a veiled reference likely at India. In a post on social media ahead of the August 1st deadline, Trump had announced a 25% tariff along with penalties on New Delhi, despite both countries being engaged in trade negotiations. The penalties, Trump said, were due to India purchasing Russian oil and being a major importer of defense equipment from Moscow. Although talks with India are ongoing, New Delhi has vowed to protect its labor-intensive farm sector. According to a Bloomberg report, India is weighing its options to placate the White House and has ruled out immediate retaliation. However, the report adds that India has informed the US it is not keen on purchasing the F-35 stealth fighter jets offered by President Trump during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington.
So India should just watch out these things, how they unfold in the next, say, 2-3 months. There is no need for any countermeasure. Let's see all the announcements of Trump in the next 2-3 months, and then we can take a considered view. If retaliation is needed, we'll certainly retaliate, like we did in June 2020 against the tariffs imposed by Trump on steel and aluminum. We retaliated then. But right now, it's not the time. Let's wait for them to show all their proposals in the next few months, and then we can take a consolidated view.
While India was hit with a 25% tariff, other South Asian countries faced similar duties. Pakistan, which finalized a trade pact with Washington on Thursday, has been slapped with a 19% tariff, 10% lower than the rate Trump initially announced in April. Afghanistan has been charged 15%, while Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, previously facing tariffs of 44% and 37% respectively, have seen revised rates of 20%. India's neighbor Myanmar has faced the highest tariff in the region, with a 40% duty imposed by the White House. Unlike the April announcement, markets showed a more muted reaction this time. Trump invoked the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, to declare an emergency over the growing US trade deficit and impose the new reciprocal tariffs, along with a separate emergency related to fentanyl. However, the US Court of International Trade ruled in May that these actions exceeded the president's executive authority. Judges at the US Appeals Court for the Federal Circuit in Washington also indicated skepticism during oral arguments.
Well, you see, the entire this Liberation Day tariff, or what they call reciprocal tariff, is based on the foundation of illegality, and I'll tell you why. Because, see, when you are a member of WTO, you negotiate a bound tariff, that you cannot go above that tariff. This reciprocal tariff does not honor that principle, number one. Secondly, it was imposed using something what they call International Emergency Economic Protection Act. That's a federal law which empowers US President to impose tariff in case of emergencies. Now, the very U.S. Court of International Trade itself has held this particular thing illegal, because they said that this reason of they have cited a reason of trade deficit that could not be, you cannot invoke international emergency clause to invoke this kind of so it has been held illegal. Now that particular thing has again been stayed by the appellate court, but the fact remains that it's an illegal tariff.
Moving on. A Pakistani anti-terrorism court on Thursday sentenced more than 100 members of jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party to prison terms on charges related to riots that targeted military sites in 2023, a court order said. 58 of the defendants, who included parliamentarians and senior officials, were sentenced to 10 years in prison, and the rest were given sentences ranging from 1 to 3 years, the court said. These include Omar Ayub Khan and Shibli Faraz, the leaders of Khan's opposition Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, in the lower and upper houses of parliament respectively. Khan, who has been in prison since 2023 facing charges of corruption, land fraud and disclosure of official secrets, is being tried separately on similar charges related to the riot. The government accuses him and other leaders of inciting the May 9, 2023 protests, during which demonstrators attacked military and government buildings, including the army headquarters in Rawalpindi. While Khan denies any wrongdoing, the ruling is the third such mass conviction this month. Khan's party says they have included at least 14 of its parliamentarians. They will lose their seats in parliament under Pakistani laws, which will shred the opposition party's strength. The Baloch Advocacy and Studies Centre held its first public seminar this week in London, aimed at raising global awareness about the grave human rights abuses faced by the Baloch community in Iran and Pakistan. The event amplified voices of victims, exposed patterns of state violence, and rallied international support for justice. We have a report.
The Baloch Advocacy and Studies Centre, an independent and non-partisan organisation in collaboration with the SOAS Iranian Society, hosted an important seminar this week at the SOAS University of London, highlighting the ongoing human rights violations against the Baloch people in Iran and Pakistan. The sessions addressed state violence in Balochistan, Iran and Pakistan, focused on extrajudicial executions and their disproportionate impact on women and children, including testimonies from family members of victims. The speakers also stressed issues like enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings of Baloch people in 2024, noting that students and labourers were among the most targeted, and emphasised that many of these atrocities, committed by Pakistani state forces, appear to be acts of retaliation and collective punishment directed against the Baloch population as a whole. The attendees expressed solidarity with the victims and their families, and demanded support for those advocating for justice, particularly the Baloch Yakjeti Committee. BASC reaffirmed its commitment to research-driven advocacy and pledged to continue working in collaboration with all those who stand for human rights and justice in the region. This seminar marked the Centre's first public event and previewed findings from its forthcoming annual human rights reports, to be released in August 2025.
In both Pakistan and Iran, the Baloch have been systematically excluded from the mainstream of politics. The military and theocratic structure of these states maintain unequal power dynamics, fueling injustice and human suffering. Despite the repeated peaceful appeals and protests, Pakistan has failed to address the legitimate grievances of the Baloch people. Instead, it has intensified.
Bangladesh's interim government, led by Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus, is facing growing public frustration and political unrest as it struggles to manage the transition to national elections, with some experts fearing of a slide back into confrontational politics. Despite promises to hold elections early next year, no official date has been announced yet. The government is grappling with delays in institutional reforms and rising tensions amid fears of worsening instability. Experts warn that without political consensus, the fragile law and order situation could spiral out of control, deepening the country's political divisions.
Even if we have just simple election, free and fair election, it will get us back to 1991, when we had election in every 5 years, but within those 5 years, the governing party took absolute control of the state machinery to collect rent, to offer rent to its loyalists, and create all the problems. So is that really the future that we want?
Last year, student-led uprising forced long-time Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to flee to India, shaking Bangladesh's political landscape. Recent violent protests, including a deadly rally in Gopalganj, highlight rising instability.
So if the nasty politics continues, I see no chance of consensus. I see back to confrontational politics. That's the most pessimist scenario. Hopefully, at one end, the most optimistic scenario, on the other hand, the most pessimistic scenario. If you want me to bet, unfortunately, I will say that, right now, today, considering everything, things look a lot pessimistic.
And in a major move, Sri Lanka's cabinet approved a draft bill to scrap the special privileges provided to former presidents and their spouses, excluding the pension given to them. The cabinet in June approved the drafting of the bill that seeks to repeal the Presidential Entitlements Act of 1986. During a media briefing, Minister and Cabinet spokesperson Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa informed that the draft legislation, pending for a long time, has been prepared to abolish the privileges granted to former presidents and their spouses, and the process for the same will be completed within a short period. Answering to the question related to the potential implication of the possible act on former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, particularly related to the security and diplomatic engagements, the minister said that the changes will be applicable to all without any exceptions. He further noted that the government is responsible not only for former presidents but also for the safety of all citizens, and that these matters are continuously discussed within the Security Council, taking into account intelligence and security reports. The bill will be presented in Parliament soon. And years after Nepal's decade-long civil conflict between Maoist rebels and the state ended, thousands of victims are still seeking justice. A new study by the International Commission of Jurists reveals that survivors, whether harmed by state forces or Maoists, continue to live in neglect. Despite constitutional guarantees of social, economic and cultural rights, implementation remains weak. The Kathmandu Post reported. Now, in a renewed push, a group of conflict victims is preparing to file a writ petition in the Supreme Court. They are demanding amendments to the Enforced Disappearances Inquiry, Truth and Reconciliation Commission Act. The group also seeks the nullification of recent appointments to the Transitional Justice Commissions, citing a lack of consultation in the process. They had been inactive for nearly 3 years before new appointments were made. If accepted, this will mark the second legal challenge to the Act, underlining widespread dissatisfaction with how transitional justice has been handled. Victims say justice has been delayed too long and that state must be held accountable for its failure to address past atrocities and ensure non-repetition. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time next week. Have a great weekend. Good night.
Tag TV brings you daily news bulletin from India. Breaking news and views from India.